What's up, Chill Time? This is another video by your coach Misha, and today we are going to talk about planting seeds. So, if you've ever eaten a watermelon or an apple or a tomato, then you are very familiar with seeds. Okay, so seeds can be defined by two things. The first thing is that all seeds are produced by plants. The second thing is that all seeds can produce other plants, but they need to have the right conditions in order to do that. Is there enough water in the soil? Oxygen? Is it warm enough? Is there an optimal pH of your soil? That's like, is the soil an acid or a base? Does it have a low pH or a high pH? Some seeds need special conditions, like fire to clear the forest, freezing to tell them when it's springtime, or maybe they need an animal to digest the outer part of the seed before the embryo can burst through. Seeds have a ton of energy stored up in them so that they can have all of the nutrients and all of those things that a baby plant needs to grow. That's why we and other mammals like to eat seeds. So all the little red squirrels you see running around in the forest, they're nibbling at those spruce cones getting at the seeds. You might like to eat walnuts, sunflower seeds, peas, beans. All of these things are high in nutritional content and give us a lot of energy. Non-flowering plants like spruce trees and flowering plants like apple trees, lupin, pushki, all produce seeds. The difference is that flowering plants produce fruit. Yes, even fireweed, pushki, lupin, all those little flowers, they do have a fruit, even if it's not as big as an apple. And that fruit is where the seeds come from to reproduce. All the distinct parts of a flower contribute to the production of seeds. The petals protect the seeds, and they're often very colorful and are there to attract pollinators. Okay, check out another key part of the flower. It's called the anther. It's the top part of the stamen above the filament there, and it holds all of the pollen of the flower. This anther is where the pollinators go to drink some delicious nectar off of the stigma and also collect a bunch of pollen all over their bodies so that they can actually spread the pollen around. Okay, so check out the ovule on this flower. That's the ovary where the fruit is made. So any fruit that you've ever eaten has come from an ovary of a flower. I'm going to show you a plant that I have growing right now that has recently been pollinated. All right, y'all, meet my friend Topernicus the tomato. Topernicus has been with me for a couple months now. I found him at a lonely garden store when he was just a wee plant. And now Topernicus has many flowers and is actually starting to grow some fruits. So I'm going to show you up close and personal some parts of Topernicus's body. Topernicus is a tomato, so a flowering plant that produces seeds. Let's take a closer look at some of Topernicus's flowers. Okay, so we can actually see that this flower has 5 petals. We can see the style with the stigma on top, and that's where the nectar comes out. And you can see that these flowers have already been pollinated and a fruit is starting to form. Those petals of the flower are wilting away as the ovary grows and grows and the fruit is created. So this little green fruit will become a tomato. Thanks for showing us all that, Topernicus. We hope that your fruits bear many, many seeds. The important parts to this seed are the seed coat, which protect all of the nutrients inside, and the embryo, which is that little green part where the plant is going to sprout from. Okay, so now's where we plant some seeds together. I want you all to find either a seed that came in a bag in your Earth Day packet that we sent home to Chill students, or if you don't have that, you can use a seed out of a tomato that you opened at your house, a seed out of a pepper. Get creative with it. I'm sure that you can find some kind of seed around your house somewhere. You will need a container of some sort, a little bit of soil, preferably potting soil, but anything you can find will work, water, and your seed. Because it is Earth Week, I encourage you to use a reusable container for your pot. The important thing though is that our containers have a little bit of drainage because we're going to be getting this thing wet, but we don't want our seed to rot in a puddle of water. So if you are using something like an egg carton container, you can actually just take a pencil and poke holes in the bottom of your egg carton. For my new seeds today, I'm going to use a paper cup. And I like to do the same thing, just poke some drainage holes in the bottom. So I've already done that here. And this is actually a reused cup, so I've planted things in this before and I'm gonna do it again. If you have a taller cup, you want to make your seed pot just a little bit shorter, you can always take some scissors and just cut around the edge here so that your cup is a little bit shorter. So I'm gonna just take a little bit of water and sort of moisten up my soil. So those ideal conditions for planting, for a seed to be able to grow, is a moist environment, but not totally soaking wet. So you want your soil to be kind of mushy, kind of moist, but not so wet that when you squeeze it, a bunch of water comes out. So now I'm gonna fill my little starter pot here with some of that moist soil. Leave about 1/2 inch of space between the top of my soil and the top of my pot or my cup. Okay, that's all there is to it, and now we can plant. So today I'm using some seeds that came in a packet here. They're called Gourmet Cat Treats Mixed Greens, with sort of this silly picture of a cat eating grass on it. So I'm just gonna take one of them. This is my one little grass seed, you can see here. The amount of soil that you want on top of your seed should be about twice the diameter of the seed itself. So this seed is not the smallest. If some of you are planting broccoli or cabbage, your seed might actually be even smaller. So your soil on top might be even less, but I'm gonna put about 1/2 inch of soil on top of here. So I'm just taking soil from around it and pushing it around. My soil is not really compact. If it was too compact and I pressed down on all this soil too much, that seed would have a really hard time bursting through the top of the soil because it would take a lot of strength, and this little seed is just starting out its life. All right, there we have it. And right after you plant your seeds, you're gonna wanna water a little bit. And as the seed is germinating, so within the next week or so, depending on your seed, let's see, this one on the back of the seed packet says, oh, here it goes, days to germinate, 3 to 7. So in about 3 to 7 days, my seed should be ready to swell and burst that embryo out of its seed casing. So within that time, this soil might get a little dry. So I'm gonna wanna keep watering it, but again, make sure that you have some drainage. So my hole is poked at the bottom here, so it doesn't get too muddy. And I don't wanna water it too much. So when I water, instead of just pouring a bunch of water on there, I'm gonna try and use a gentle layer of water so that my seed doesn't dislodge from all of that dirt. So you can either take a spray bottle if you have one, and you want that water to go all the way through the soil. You don't want any pockets of dry soil under there. Or if you don't have a spray bottle, you can reuse something in your house and make your own watering can, and I'll show you how I did that. I have my DIY watering can here. It's just a cottage cheese container that I have drilled holes into the bottom of. So you could try and use something that's paper, and you could just poke holes in the bottom of that with a pencil. And basically this is a watering can. So when I pour a bunch of water through here, it creates a nice, gentle stream of water. these younger plants are now just starting to poke through, and you can see this one has just come out of its seed. Let's get a good view of that. So a lot of these plants will still have the seed sort of attached to them as they come out of the soil. And that's because they are still collecting nutrients from inside the seed. So the embryo is what starts the plant, right? So the embryo is growing and just sort of carrying the seed with it, and eventually that seed will fall off as those leaves start to pop out. Here are some examples of sprouts that have really taken off. So these seeds all germinated about a week ago and started sprouting. So these are all broccoli and cabbage and arugula and some other leafy greens. And I like these sprouts all close together because I'll just take some scissors and chop them off and put them on top of salads and things. I'm not letting them grow tall and big into real broccoli plants, but I'll show you in a minute here what that would look like. This is a plant that has its starter leaves, and on top here you can see that it's starting to grow those true leaves. Many of these plants already have their true leaves. So for example, this is a baby tomato plant. So this tomato plant had its starter leaves fall off. You can see them there in the soil. And now it has all of these big, beautiful true leaves that are collecting light. And here I have an artificial light growing my starter plants. But you can also use a windowsill, especially if it's facing south toward the sun. Okay, here are some happy windowsill plants here. This is basil. You can see that even though these look like starter leaves, these are true leaves, and the starter leaves have fallen off. So that's what that starter leaf looks like. And actually, I often pick off my starter leaves as soon as the true leaves begin because it helps the plant direct energy into its new growth. So this is a squash. Its true leaves have also been picked off, and it's got these big, big leaves. So squash, as you may know, have bigger seeds and bigger fruits than a lot of the other plants like little tomatoes or regular flowers that we see. And that's why they need these big, big leaves to collect lots of sunlight and make a lot of sugars so that they can have big, beautiful flowers whose ovaries turn into big, beautiful fruits.